I got a write-up for participating in a hunger strike. I got a write-up for they said threatening a correctional officer in Pelican Bay. And I didn't threaten him. He's lying. He made that up.
Welcome to More Than an Inmate's Girlfriend. I'm your host, Jay. Welcome, everyone. We are winding down the season. I think we are only going to have 2 more episodes after this. Maybe 3, but I'm aiming at 2. And the reason that I'm aiming probably a week early to finish is not only that my birthday is at the end of the month, but with all this renovating and planning and selling and moving and book publishing, it's been hectic. I'm currently publishing and working on a book by Todd L. Cook. He is incarcerated in Nebraska. He's been incarcerated over 30 years. And I see a lot of Nick in his writing. And I think if Nick were to remain incarcerated as long as Todd has been, Nick will develop to be someone very similar to Todd. So it's really fun to be able to communicate and read Todd's words. This book is called Surviving the Other Death Penalty. It's coming out in the next couple weeks, and it's dedicated to those who are broken and those compassionate enough to support them. And I think that it's such a beautiful way to dedicate this type of book, just because it does talk a lot about, rehabilitation. And he answers really eloquently questions that I've asked a lot of times about rehabilitation. How do you prove rehabilitation? How do you know? How do you deal with the shame and guilt associated with your crime? How do you feel deserving of being free? And he just has a really nice way of presenting it in a really brutally honest way and filled with vulnerability and facts. I think a lot of times, and you'll hear in this interview with David, who is our guest today, that oftentimes people present themselves very differently to a parole board than they do in everyday life. And with David, he's been in front of the parole board multiple times. He's served over 30 years. I think he was eligible for parole like 10 years ago, if not more. And he was also involved in the hunger strike in California, because he was in the hole from like 1993 to 2015. So imagine that. And he's got, from what I can see, very little effects mentally that he dares to share on a public podcast, obviously. But what I love about him is how open he was to discussing and having this interview, which I thought was great, but also how helpful he's been in my life and how kind and respectful and just willing to help. When we were trying to set up this interview and he wanted to talk to me about different things and what we would talk about, what we wouldn't talk about. And of course I have to respect his boundaries. And, in passing, I would say I'm tiling a floor or tiling the wall. And he would jump up and ask me a bunch of questions related to tiling. And any ability that he could share to help me tile, he was more than willing to. And we're talking about a 65-year-old man with grandkids and, a wife and kids and grandkids, and just really kind for nothing else, no other reason than to be helpful. And listen in the interview how full circle it is, because next week and the week after, we're doing a 2-part series with Silas. And Silas, first of all, has the coolest voice ever. I find his voice fascinating. He's just he's like a voice made for TV, in my opinion. But anyways, I digress. Silas talks about this full circle moment, and we go through that a little bit more in depth. Silas has been home now a couple months, and he was in for the same charges as David. And it's different charges than Todd, who wrote this book that I'm talking to you about. And California has opportunities for parole for some offenses, whereas Nebraska's a little bit more strict when it comes to certain things. And felony murder laws have changed a lot in other states where they are still trying to catch up in Nebraska. Nebraska is still very far away. And, something in the book that Todd points out is that a 40-year-old man who brutally plans and murders his ex-wife is very different than an 18-year-old who's trying to rob someone of marijuana and they get into a fight and instinctively shoots someone and kills them. You know, those are very different situations with very different types of people at different ages, where brain development is very different and are incomparable, really. But there is no opportunity in Nebraska for any ability to compare. And there's some interesting surveys and stuff in this book. And I'm talking a lot about it, even though it's not Nick's book. But I'm really fascinated. And I do want to start sharing more about the books that I'm publishing because they are fascinating for people whose loved ones that are incarcerated are interested in books. And I will share more of these types of books that I come across as I publish. You know, we do get a lot of urban novels as well. If you guys like reading different urban novels and want to support, you know, best self-publications and the thing we got going, then there will be opportunities for that. And I will share that. I know I continue to be MIA on social media. I do plan on coming back. I just don't plan on not coming back ever again. And sometimes while you're rebranding and refiguring out some things, you just need to take a step back. And you guys know, obviously, I've been pretty open about all of the different things going on in my life right now. Unfortunately, we haven't heard anything from the lawyers about being able to see my husband. It's going on a very long time. My birthday's at the end of the month, and I'm just praying and trying to stay hopeful that the future is looking bright. And I think it is. I'm pretty excited about it, to be honest. Side note, before we go into the episode with David talking about his experiences with everything from being in the hole for over 20 years to the hunger strike in California that got them out, to his hopes and dreams, to him doing his GED at 65 years old. It's a fascinating interview and he's a unique character, and I'm really glad that I got the time to spend with him doing that. I do want to talk about a new partnership with Inside Link. This is specifically for the feds. It's a texting service. So if your loved one is a federal inmate and you wish to get them on the texting service, Inside Link, you can go to freeus.now and sign them up. And all the information is on that website. And there's email links and stuff. So if you need more information, please reach out to me. I will get you hooked up with that. And then also there is the gift catalog that is still going out, going strong. You can order one at morethaninmatesgirlfriend.com. It is for your loved ones who are incarcerated to order gifts for you. I will be working on the second launch of the next catalog, probably in the fall. So this break time that we're going to have here for the next 2 months is going to be for me to resettle more on the West Coast in Pacific time, but also for the new catalog design and other different projects and publishing and getting all that done. So lots of really fun, exciting things. I appreciate the support, you guys. And if you ever need anything or want to reach out for any reason, please don't hesitate. I do love interacting with you guys and getting to know people. With that, I will let you go. Follow us on social media, even though I'm not posting. Please and thank you. We're still trying to get our numbers back up from losing our Instagram. So podcast_prisongf on Instagram, or More Than an Inmate's GF on TikTok. And of course on Facebook, More Than an Inmate's Girlfriend. So please log in and follow those socials. It does really help with engagement. If you could follow the podcast itself, I would love that. Just hit that plus button. It just shows that you are supporting the show. So with that, I will let you listen to David's episode on surviving the hole. I hope you enjoy. Take care, guys. Bye. Welcome, David. Thank you for joining me today.
Nice to meet you. It's nice to have you on here.
Yeah.
Allow me to share my experience.
I cannot wait because you have so much to say. So let's get right into it. And I would like to take it way back to when you were a kid. What was it like growing up in California?
Man, growing up in California is when I remember the most is when I was like a little boy. My dad used to always tell me, if you're going to do something, do it right. Don't half-ass it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He taught me how to work on cars. My first job was cleaning yards for these two old senoras, and they turned into three because there was two that were neighbors and one that lived across the street, the old Mexican ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to go there and clean their yards and feed their dogs and go do their little mandados, which means like to go and buy the stuff that they needed for their house, like whether it was cleaning supplies or bread or tortillas or frijoles or whatever. I'd go to the store with a little note and buy their stuff, and they give me the money, and I bring it home to them, you know?
Aww.
And I did that. They said, oh, he's a nice boy. I had to sit in their house, especially when it was raining, after I got done doing the yard work and doing their mandados, and wait for my mom to pick me up.
Oh.
And then my mom would drive me home. So I'd be in their house watching TV, their little black and white TV, because this was back in the 60s.
Wow. That's crazy. So was your neighborhood predominantly Spanish speaking?
Yeah, predominantly, yes, definitely.
Wow.
Yep.
Was that your first language?
English was my first language, but I also grew up in a household where they spoke Spanish and English.
Okay. And were you a good kid? Did you listen when your mom talked?
I was a good kid up until I would say I was about 12, 13. Then I started growing up a little, doing my own things in a way.
And did you have people that you look up to?
3 people with my dad, my uncle, and my other uncle. I have an uncle that was only like 2.5 years older than me.
Okay.
So we used to call each other brothers. We didn't say we were a nephew and an uncle. We said we were brothers.
Yeah. What were they like? Was your dad working or?
Yeah, he worked. At first, he went to school to be a butcher.
Wow.
And he became a butcher. So he went to work 5 days a week. And my mom was a homemaker. I'm an only child. Definitely not spoiled, but an only child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid?
I don't even know. I never really thought about what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be good at whatever. I wanted to be a good husband and a good dad. And I wanted to be there for my kids, you know?
Yeah.
But it didn't happen that way.
So what did happen?
I ended up in jail. I ended up in jail at about 13, late 13.
Wow.
And then 14, 15, 16, all that stuff. It was nothing serious.
But what led you down that path?
My uncle, he was my hero at the time. He used to steal cars and stuff. We loved cars. I used to work on cars with my dad. And so I started stealing cars as a young boy.
Whoa. And how old were you when you caught this case?
I was 32 when I caught this case.
Really? So before that, you were just not doing serious crimes or anything like that?
Well, I went to prison for serious crime. Before that, this wasn't my first time. It was already like my second commitment, but I did a lot of parole violations.
Okay.
Yeah, I could violate just anything, dirty tests, anything, dirty tests. Most of the time, I would just not report.
Okay.
I didn't like reporting, so I just wouldn't report, and then they'd violate me. I'd be on the run until they caught me, and then I'd go in for like 6 months, 9 months, or a year, and then I'd come out and do the same thing all over again.
Meanwhile, you were married and had kids.
I had other kids with other women, yes, but I was never married until my wife.
Oh, okay.
You know?
And that was after you were incarcerated?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yep. So what case did you catch here and what were you sentenced to?
Well, I was sentenced to second-degree murder plus career criminal, I think it was, and 5 years for use of a gun. So it came out to 10 years determinate sentence and then 15 years to life.
What year was that in?
1993.
1993, and we're now 2026 and you're still incarcerated.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. 30-some years, 33 years later, no?
Wow. So we've talked before this about spending time in the hole. When you were first incarcerated, they put you in the hole?
Oh, yeah. I was in High Powell in the county, which is basically the hole in the county jail. And from 93 to 98, and then from 98 to 2015, I was in the hole.
Oh, my gosh. So what's the definition of the hole in California? Are you on your cell alone?
Well, yeah, you're in a cell alone. Well, sometimes you have a cell. It depends on where you're at. At Pelican Bay, for a while, they were all single cell, and then they double celled them. In Corcoran, some people were single cell. It depends on your violence. Some people had Sally, some people didn't.
And did
I
you?
had both.
Okay.
Sometimes I had a Sally. For a while, I had a Sally, then I didn't have a Sally, and then I got a Sally again. After I didn't get in no trouble for a while.
You could still get in trouble when you're in the hole?
Of course, yes. I got a write-up for participating in a hunger strike. I got a write-up for, they said, threatening a correctional officer in Pelican Bay. And I didn't threaten him. He's lying. He made that up because they were mad that after the hunger strike, they had a suicide during the hunger strike. So they put these things next to every cell where they had to go by and touch this thing. We used to call it piping. It was like this thing that they had to touch. So that way it automatically registers in the computers in Sacramento that they had went by that cell and looked in that cell. Because there was why they were not doing that, why that guy was hanging there for 7 hours and they didn't see him. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And that thing would make a lot of noise, especially at nighttime, and they would do it on purpose. He'd sound asleep, and the guy goes by and bam, 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 bam. So I told him one time, like, hey, man, I go, you don't have to do all that, man. You could just touch it real lightly. The other cop does it. Oh, wow, they make us do it. I got to do my job. And I told him, how would you like it if somebody did something to you and threw something at you for disturbing their sleep?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, oh, you're threatening me. And I told him, no, I'm just saying, how would you like that? I mean, that would be rude, right? And this what you're doing is rude, you know?
Yeah.
And he wrote it up that I threatened him. I didn't threaten him.
Aw. I can't even imagine what it's like being in the hole for that long. What does it do to you? What do you do every day? How do you stay busy? How do you stay sane?
It didn't do nothing to me. Just because you have a weak mind, you might have a problem, but I know how to read, do different projects. I know how to write. And if you're fortunate to have a loved one on the outside, you have somebody to write to, maybe get visits, which I got once in a while, like maybe 3 to 4 times a year, holidays and stuff.
Wow.
But just keep your mind busy. Exercise for sure every day to release the tension.
Yeah. And did you participate in the hunger strike? You said you got a write-up.
Definitely. Yeah, I got a write-up for that, yeah. Got a write-up for that. And then we stood outside one night, too. We refused to go back in from the cages outside. Got a write-up for that, too. We slept outside that night.
Wow. So what was the reason that you started the hunger strike? What were the conditions that they wanted to change?
All of that, they're indeterminate SHU. He's keeping us back there for years and years with no write-ups. Some guys were back there for 30, 40 years with no write-ups, ever, you know? And the cops used to, the IGIs or the Mexican gang investigators, they would just make stuff up that somebody gave them information that we were still actively involved in this or that. And it wasn't true, but they were concerned with their job security, so they would just make shit up.
Wow.
And put it on you. And the courts finally seen it, that it was just recycled information. They were doing the same thing over and over to the same piece, rotating the information.
So when you were in the hole, they just didn't tell you when you'd be out?
No. They would say that every 6 months or every year, every 3 years or every 6 years, they would reevaluate you and see if you had been clean and you could get out. I would say 1 out of 100 of that got out of the SHU on that basis.
Wow. That is crazy.
It was real hard. They'd come and search your cell, see if they find any kites or any letters that came in from outside that had some kind of message that they thought was coded. Well, how in the hell could they get in if you guys are going through our mail? They made it through the mail system, and how are you going to try to use them against them now that they're in the cell?
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense. No sense whatsoever.
Yeah. How did you not get bitter against the whole world?
Because it's not the whole world's fault. My actions put me in prison. Whether I was guilty of the crime that I committed or not, I must have been doing something that had me in a place that I shouldn't have been, and I ended up in prison. And I'm not an angel. I'm not going to lie. I'm not an angel. So I ended up there at the time I had to do it. You can't sit there and cry about what happened. You got to just live through it and get past it.
Yeah. And do you remember when it finally started working, that the hunger strike actually changed some of the conditions?
That was 2014. But a lot of people think it was just a hunger strike. It was not just a hunger strike. It was all the publicity that we got, number one. Number two, it was because everybody went single cell, and they could not afford that. That shit was hurting them. It was costing them thousands. They had to transfer people, because once the prison went single cell, you figure you got 2 guys in almost in every cell, and then people start going single cell, well, they had to start shipping people out to different prisons. So that means they got to pay those transportation officers like triple what they regularly pay, in order to do this stuff. They were doing this at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, every night. It cost the Department of Corrections a lot of money. But it was a perfect storm. It was those people that had got busted over there in Iraq, that had got busted. They said that they had crossed the border. They were being spies and shit, Americans. And they had came back. One of them, first the girl and the one guy got released, and the girl's husband was still in there. And they said the solitary confinement was unbelievable. They couldn't handle it, and they testified in front of the Senate and stuff, how that stuff affected them, the solitary confinement. And that's just, they're only done in third world countries, and yet they're doing it here in California and other states.
Yeah.
So that put a lot of spotlight on it. So when they started coming to visit Pelican Bay, Portland, and stuff like that, and talking to the inmates about solitary confinement, they started advocating for us as well. So that's why that stuff got stopped. It was just a perfect storm. It just all came together like a puzzle, you know?
Yeah. And then finally you were able to get out of the hole.
Yeah, well, the Department of Corrections didn't want to comply with the court orders, so the judge ruled in our favor and granted the writ and told them they had to have us all out by 2016.
Okay.
The most they could ever keep somebody is 10 years, and they have to get a court order after 5 years to hold them.
Wow.
And then after the 10 years, they have to get another court order to keep them any longer than that. So they have to really show that this person is a threat to not be able to come out to a main line.
Yeah. Do you remember when you guys won that order and it went through the prison?
Yeah, I didn't believe it because I was married and I got divorced. I divorced my wife in 2014. And then in 2015, we got kicked out. Yeah. If I would have known that was going to happen, I would have never divorced her.
Why did you divorce her?
I just got tired of it, all the back and forth and shit.
Yeah.
No contact visits. It's rough.
Yeah, I can imagine being really hard on her too, and you, and creating a lot of tension.
Yeah.
Me and my husband haven't been able to see each other in like 14, 15, 16 months, I think now. And it's horrible. It's very straining on a relationship when you can't see the person.
Well, I should clarify that. We thought we had got divorced. It turns out we never did because the papers were not filed right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you didn't even have to get remarried?
No.
Look at that. God's intervention.
Yeah.
What was it like going from the hole, then going into general population?
It took a minute to get adjusted to it. Not really hard, but it took a minute because I was under that old style thinking, you know, like you had to be ready at all times. So
yeah,
I was always ready. To me, when the riot kicks off, they're not going to say, hey, get ready because the riot's going to kick off and you got to be ready. And so it took a while to adjust to that and say, like, don't worry about all that stuff.
Yeah.
It took me about a year.
Yeah. Because you also weren't young. Like, you're out of the game, so to speak. There's a lot of new people.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So I'm an old man just here now watching all these young kids do whatever they do.
Yeah. You've grown past it now.
If you enjoy hearing stories about other people's prison relationships, why not try finding one for yourself? Penpals.buzz lists thousands of male and female prisoners, and you can search by age, type of crime, ethnicity, religion, or practically anything else to find your perfect person behind bars. So take the plunge. Instead of just listening to stories, why not become the story? At penpals.buzz.
So do you feel like after that year you were able to calm down and not be always in fight or flight?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, in fight or flight. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. For the most part, I had gotten over that, but it still exists to these days, that fight or flight preparedness, I should say. But I learned how to relax and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Just enjoy what I can.
And you've also graduated from max. You're in medium now, right?
Yeah, I started out on level 4, which is considered the highest. And I'm on level 3 right now. I'm hoping to get down to level 2 by the end of the year and then be transferred, you know?
And do you find your mindset changed?
Yeah, in some ways, yeah. Like you said, I'm just an older dude now. I don't have to do nothing. I just get to do my time and do what I need to do to go home or be a knucklehead and do stupid things and end up spending the rest of my life in here. So I've chosen to progress and mature, and hopefully one day the board will let me out. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing everything I can to facilitate that.
And what does that entail?
Going to school, staying positive. You have to stay positive. Don't let shit get you upset. Try not to get involved in nothing that's going to get you upset, number one. Number two, stay in positive classes. I'm in a bunch of classes. Cajun Rage, Life Without a Crutch, Criminal Gang Anonymous, and I'm in my GED class. And then I volunteer for another class that I go to twice a week. So I'm in quite a bit of classes, more than I need to really, but hey, they put me in them, I'm going to go to them.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about the fact that you're 65 getting your GED. What made you want to do that?
65, yeah. Well, I always told my kids that I only asked them one thing. I told them, just do me a favor. All I asked you was not to get involved in no games, none of that stuff. Don't try to live the same life that I did, because it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And two is to go to school, man, and reach your high school diploma, because that'll always provide you with some sort of income. You can get a job a lot easier than a lot of other people. And so since I had told them that,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to get it when I was in the SHU, but then right before we were going to take the test, after I practiced and studied for it, they transferred me to Pelican Bay, so I missed out on taking the test. And then when I got out of the SHU, eventually I got back into it, and now I'm going to get ready to take the test in about another month or so.
You must be really proud of yourself.
Well, I guess I would have been really proud of myself had I got it a long time ago, but to a certain degree, I'm proud of myself that I am going to complete it.
I just think it's incredible that someone your age who's been through so much, spent so much time in the hole, has gone through so many different stages of life while incarcerated, and you're still learning and growing and striving and trying. You haven't given up on life.
No, heck no. I would never do that. Quitters give up. I ain't never going to give up. I'm going to succeed in what I put my mind to. Of course, it's all into the eye of the beholder, which is the board, but I believe I'm going to succeed because I'm not giving them nothing that they can say no about.
Yeah.
The only problem I have really is that I don't know how to verbalize myself sometimes. I don't know how to speak to them because they want to hear you say this and that, and there's some things that I just don't feel comfortable with. It's hard for me to open up because back in my time, a man never spoke about his problem.
Right.
He kept it all inside.
Yeah. I wonder if they're aware of that.
They are in a way, but they don't care. They want you to break it down to them. They want to hear you say, I'm sorry, and all that stuff. But what I don't get about that is if they're saying you're not going in there to rehash your case, then it shouldn't be whether I'm sorry or not. It's about what I've done since then, that my actions have shown you that I've changed. They tell you that, your attorney tells you, because you get an attorney before you go to board, and he tells you that you're not going in there to rehash your case. You were convicted, you're guilty, and that's it. All right, then why do I got to go in there and say I'm sorry or whatever for whatever happened if we're not rehashing the case? That's over with. We're now trying to get past that.
Yeah.
So if my actions have not shown you that I have changed and matured, and me verbalizing what I've learned from these classes has not given me thought to believe that I have changed, some people just don't have good verbal skills, and I'm one of them. I've never been really good at that. I get frustrated a little bit, It's like, man, why I got to keep going over this? And you see, I went to all these classes. I didn't just sitting there. I participated in all my classes.
When you think about the person that you were when you first went in to the person you are now, what's different?
My whole problem, which the board has pointed out, is that I was very impulsive and violent.
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever somebody did something that I thought was out of line, I didn't sit there and talk about it. There was nothing more to be said. It was all about action,
Uh-huh.
He wrote the check. Now I thought I had to cash it. That was my problem. I was very impulsive. Well, I've learned not to be impulsive because I realized that you don't need to take it there. I don't need to prove myself to nobody. I just need to be me, live my life, stay away from when the conversation switches to something you're not comfortable with, you just leave.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be getting involved in any of that stuff no more. I don't have any plans of going around any of the people that I used to know. I don't even know what they look like no more. I know that I've matured enough to where I realize that there's a lot more to life than just coming in and out of jail. The real man is going to have a position in life, in society, a good job, supporting his family, and getting to know his grandkids, trying to lead them in the right direction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're all role models for somebody in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we realize it, acknowledge it, or not, we are.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be a family member. It could be a friend, a neighbor's child. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I respect that a lot.
You know,
And I think the fact that you're
crazy.
pushing your kids too to go down the right path.
No, I never wanted my kids to be involved in anything that I ever done. Stay away from it. I never even told my kids anything about what I ever did, but people used to tell them, "Oh, I know your dad. He's crazy. He's a crazy so and so." And I'm like, "Why are you gonna tell my kids that?"
Yeah. You tried to shelter
I never
them.
want my kids to be like that. Yes, exactly. Who wants their kids to grow up just like them and be in jail? Because that's what you are. That's what I've been.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to be in jail. I want them to have a better life.
Yeah. It just sounds like you've really matured from the person that you were, and you realize what's important and what's not at this point.
Definitely, yeah. What I thought was important and stupid.
So, Mr. David, if you were to get freed in your next parole, what are your dreams for your future?
Wow. Definitely never to come back.
Yeah.
Definitely. And to be able to spend the time I have left getting to know my grandchildren, they don't even hardly know me. They used to, now they don't. To be able to have them on the weekends and the holidays maybe and summer vacation, if they'll have it, you know. And I'll be able to go fishing on the weekends and go camping and stuff, travel a little bit. You know,
Wow.
different places. I haven't been nowhere. Las Vegas, TJ, San Diego. I was busted up there. That's why I went over there. But I haven't really been nowhere in life.
Wow.
To be honest with you, I always thought after my mom died of cancer that I wanted to do something for cancer. The people from the barrio, the women especially that don't go see the doctors because they're on drugs or something, they don't want to go in and have themselves checked. Like to have a place where they know they wouldn't be judged whether they were on drugs or not. You're still going to check them,
Yeah.
make sure they're all right, if they have any kind of complications or something. Because a lot of women that are out there, I know, they don't even go to the doctor because they know they're on drugs. When I was out there back years ago, they wouldn't go to no doctor unless it was emergent. It wasn't to check for cancer or the regular yearly checks and all that.
Yeah.
They don't even pay attention to none of that shit.
Yeah.
I would like to have somebody help open up a place like that for people that won't be judged whether they're on drugs or not. You're still going to help them. That's what I always wanted.
The best thing that you can do after being out of society for so long is to get involved in the community again. Be around good.
I have a job waiting for me where it is working with at-risk youth, a place that deals with kids that are on the verge or have already committed a crime. And I work as a counselor to talk to them and kind of analyze them and see what kind of help would help them. Because when I was growing up, if somebody would have ever told me when I went to juvenile hall, where do you see yourself 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah.
No one ever asked me that question. No one ever did. I don't know about other guys in here, and I've asked some of these guys, and they said, no one ever asked me that. And yeah, because they didn't see no future for us, so they never even bothered to ask us.
Wow.
If somebody would have got me to stop and look at my life and say, where are you going to be 5, 10 years from now? And I would have said, damn, I never thought about that. Or where would you like to be 5, 10 years from now? Or I would love to have a home and so forth. Or you're not going to get a home by doing what you're doing, coming to jail for this and coming to jail for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have maybe stopped and maybe open my eyes. You know what I mean? It would have maybe helped me look at things differently.
That's interesting.
So sometimes you got to open the kid's eyes to make him look at his future. No one ever asked me, where do you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now when I was a child? When I got older, yes, but not as a child,
Yeah.
as a juvenile. No one ever asked me that. So I never thought to look at it.
I've always wondered if it works, if being mentored by someone older actually works.
From my perspective, is that the child has to want something different. There has to be something in him, a spark or something that makes him, if he does something wrong, think about the hurt that he's causing somebody or the guilt that he feels afterwards. And that means that there's something in him that's still there that may want to push him to do something different in life. Because there's some kids that you don't even look at doing nothing other than what they've done, and it just gets worse as they go.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think there's good in everybody.
Me too.
And you can help drive them away from the negativity if you stay consistent with them and help them.
Yeah. I was talking to someone who just got out after 25 years or 26 years. And we were talking about how oftentimes when you're young, you go down this other path that ends you up in prison. And then at one point you're able to turn back and become the person who you were supposed to be. Like you said, just that simple life. When I asked you about what you wanted as a child and what you thought about, you really just wanted an easy, simple, family-oriented life. And then now you're talking about what you would do when you come out, and it's the same. You just want that simple, family-oriented life. That's all you ever wanted.
That's it. That's all I ever want. I used to tell my wife, all I care about is having decent, clean clothes, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I used to tell her that we could live in a cabin out in the woods somewhere with no electricity, just me and her, and I'd be the happiest guy on earth. You know?
Yeah.
I'd be the provider.
Yeah.
That's what I like doing. It makes me feel that I'm the man I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a bad kid.
And you're not a bad person. You maybe made some questionable decisions.
Yeah, I know I made some bad choices, but I know I'm the better person now.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I appreciate it.